Well, good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Garland, and I'm the Deputy Field Supervisor, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, Kentucky Ecological Services Field Office. I've been with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service since 2007. I worked for the Kentucky Division of Water, and then before that, the Kentucky Department for Fish and Wildlife in their environmental section. All right, so today I'm going to give you guys a brief overview of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, our office and our priority work areas, and then identify some opportunities for collaboration for those folks that are working in our priority work areas. The mission of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is working with others, and I think that's a really key component, with others to conserve, protect, and enhance fish, wildlife, plants, and their habitats for the continuing benefit of the American people. Out of the Department of the Interior's Unified Region 2, that's the Atlantic and Gulf, with our regional office being in Atlanta. Historically, we were part of what they call Legacy Southeast Region, or Region 4. The joint vision statement for all the programs within Legacy Region 4 is together, we will connect lands, waters, to sustain fish, wildlife, and plants by being visionary leaders, bold innovators, and trusted partners, working with and for the people. So as you can see, both in the agency's mission and our regional vision statement, working with others is a key part of achieving our goals. Within the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, there are a few major programs. Those include migratory birds. For Kentucky, that's run out of a Memphis office. The Fisheries Program, which is most known in Kentucky through the Wolf Creek National Fish Hatchery. Wildlife Refuges, which we've got the Clarks River National Wildlife Refuge out in West Kentucky, and the newly established Green River National Wildlife Refuge in Henderson. Law enforcement, we have some special agents scattered across the state, but the most notable presence is at the Louisville International Airport at the UPS hub. And then Ecological Services, and that's the program I work in. The Ecological Services program focuses on implementation of the Endangered Species Act. And the major components of that include listing and recovery, consultation, and the Partners for Fish and Wildlife program. I've got up here a staff list and a link to our office's website where you can get email addresses and numbers for folks. I did also want to note that we do have a considerable amount of vacancies. So just as an FYI, we're pretty short-staffed these days, as I know many other folks are too. Folks you're most likely to work with, and I'll touch on this a little bit further in the presentation, but for our listing and recovery programs, specifically for aquatics, Dr. Michael Floyd would be your main point of contact. Section 7 consultation, Jessica Miller and Carrie Allison are our main project managers or listing consultation biologists. And then within the Partners for Fish and Wildlife program, Brent Harrell is our state coordinator. I think some of you in the past may have worked with Andy Radomski. He was stationed out at the Clarks River National Wildlife Refuge in West Kentucky. He has left the service, and while we are backfilling that position, it will not be in West Kentucky. We're pulling that to Frankfort. So our priority aquatic work areas, and these are not the only areas we work in, but these are areas where we have a large number of listed and at-risk species and where we are prioritizing or focusing our work areas. Within Kentucky, we've got 49 listed species, and you can see looking at the breakout here that the vast majority of those species are aquatics. When I say listed species, I mean those that have been formally listed as threatened or endangered Species Act. When I talk about at-risk species, I'm talking about proposed, candidate, and petition species. And those are included in the T&E species list that we have on our website, and I've got the link to that up there. Right now, we do not have any newly proposed species for Kentucky. We have one candidate, but no aquatics. That's the rattlesnake master board. Is the only candidate species we currently have. And then petition species, we've got quite a few. I have a few of the aquatics listed there, and these are ones that we've been petitioned by a third party to review to see whether or not they meet the standard of a threatened or endangered species. We work through those through our national listing work plan, and you can find that on our national website. Again, the link is listed there, but those will tell you what fiscal years we plan to come out with either a not warranted finding or a proposed listing, depending on the result of that review. The Cumberland River drainage, particularly the upper Cumberland, has been a priority work area for us for a long time. We've got several listed fishes as well as some listed mussels. The mussels are in some of the larger tributaries to the Cumberland, while most of the fishes are in the smaller headwater streams, with the exception of the tuxedo darter and the pale zone shiner. The Licking River is an area that we've worked in historically and are coming back to spending some more focused effort there. The Licking River is known for its diverse mussel fauna, and those are in the main stem of the Licking River. Licking River is another priority work area for us. It has primarily listed mussels as well, and again, in the main stem. So what are some opportunities for collaboration with the Fish and Wildlife Service? Technical assistance is something that we can offer folks, and that's looking to identify watersheds that have listed or at-risk species, and I'll talk a little bit about our IPAC program. Opportunities to get information regarding specific species, and then development of best management practices for listed and at-risk species. Our IPAC tool is a really fantastic tool, and we are using it more and more for project review. It's in going through the consultation process, but it's also a great place to start just to see if your project has the potential to impact in a positive or negative manner a listed species. And so this is just a screenshot of the IPAC website, and you can either have a login and save your projects, or you can just do it as a guest and move through. But you're able to zoom into your work area. You can drop in a shapefile, or you can type in your location, or just search for areas that you work in, and then draw your project footprint, or if it's a consultation, your action area. And then what that will do is it'll pull up a species list. And within that species list, it will give you links to the ECOS website for that species, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then also, if you do go to request an official species list, it will give you some technical guidance on those species and ways to protect them. So here's ECOS, and this is where you can, like I said, you can get to this from your IPAC species list, or you can simply just go to the ECOS website and type in a species that you're interested in. All listed species will be in here. Many of our at-risk species, all of the candidate and proposed species will be in here, and the vast majority of our petition species are in here. The status for something that is petitioned will be under review. And even those that have previously been reviewed and determined not warranted are in there. And it gives you the range. There's links to all of the Federal Register documents. For understanding the biology of the species, key documents to look for are going to be the proposed listing rule. That's going to talk a lot about the species biology, the distribution, as well as the threats to the species. If it's something that's been listed a while, the recovery plan or the 5-year review is a great place to look for the most up-to-date information on those species. And of course, if you have specific questions and you can't find what you need, you're always welcome to give us a call. And once again, there's your main points of contact. Regulatory assistance, if you have a project and it's going to construction, you can reach out to us to ensure that your project is in compliance with the Endangered Species Act. If you would like to submit a project for review, we recommend that you submit it to our office email address, and this allows us to make sure that it gets appropriately logged and assigned to a project manager. It also prevents holdups when somebody leaves, or we had a situation where projects were being mailed to an individual, that individual retired, and we didn't know about it until folks were calling us 2 or 3 months later asking where their letter was, and we had never received it because it was going to an individual's email as opposed to the office email. As far as the information that you should submit to us if a project needs review, for ESA compliance, you can go to, again, to our website, and we've got a link to a small document that shows you exactly the information that we're looking for. Um, Pictures, maps, those are all very, very helpful, as well as a good description of the work that's going to be done. And so funding opportunities. Um, the Partners for Fish and Wildlife program is our primary recovery implementation tool. It's the main way we fund on-the-ground projects. Brent Harrell is our Partners for Fish and Wildlife program coordinator. I will next let you guys know, for folks who've worked with this program in the past, it has changed quite a bit in the past few years, in that Partners Biologist and the states will now is we develop what we call implementation strategies, and those are submitted to compete for funding, whereas we used to just kind of get a set allotment to spend as we saw appropriate. We now have to develop proposals. We compete for regional funding, and the focus is on funding projects that are going to provide a direct benefit to listed and at-risk species. We have a $25,000 cap project for partners projects, and as you can tell from that dollar amount, these projects tended to leverage other funding and not be the sole source of money for a project. Right now, we do have funding to work on aquatic projects in the Licking, Upper Cumberland, and Green River watersheds. We also, just to mention for folks that maybe also dabble in some of the non-aquatics, work on prairies barrens for the benefit of listed and at-risk pollinators is also an area that we have funding and are doing quite a bit of work these days. If you're interested in more about the Partners program or opportunities to work with there, Brent Harrell is going to be the best person for you to reach out to, and his cell phone number is listed on that staff website. The other opportunity for funding that we have is through discretionary funding. And this is situations where maybe we get to the end of our fiscal year and we find that we haven't spent all of our money. Maybe there's a global pandemic and we're not doing much traveling, and so our expenses are less. In those situations, we typically don't have a whole lot of time to get that money spent. And so we're looking for projects that, one, address those priorities, so benefiting listed and at-risk species, but also projects that are shovel ready. They're pretty well developed. We've got landowner agreements, or we've got folks that are willing and able to do the work. We either already have a draft scope of work or can get one pretty quickly, and we have somebody who is able to receive that funding. If folks are familiar with the Fish and Wildlife Service and cooperative agreements, you know that involves getting registered and being an approved entity in SAMS and ASAP. And so that was the Kentucky field office and opportunities for partnerships in a whirlwind tour. Again, we focus on the conservation and recovery of listed and at-risk species. We're available to provide technical and/or regulatory assistance for projects. And in some situations, we may have funding available for those projects that have conservation benefits to those listed and at-risk species. So at this point, I guess I will open it up for questions if we have time for that, Steve, or we can save those to the end.